All right. We are live. Hey, y'all.
Hi, friends. It's Kandron and
What's
Dehjai.
good? Deja here.
Yes.
I'm a
And we
little.
are Black and Curious. Yes. And so we are Black and Curious. And uh, we're here to record. We're here to talk about Harlem. Just FYI, all of our beauty details and our drink details are down below in the description box. All right. So we're here to talk about Harlem. We have a full episode about Harlem that should be posted by now. So if you haven't watched that, please go do that. Um, and like this video in advance if you liked Harlem, because that's what we're talking about. Specifically, today we want to talk about Black leadership and how it can be different, if you will. So, as a background, if you haven't watched Harlem yet, Camille is the main character, and she was the adjunct professor at was she at NYU or Columbia?
Columbia.
Okay, at Columbia, and she was basically on track to get a position. Her boss had promised her a position, and then her boss got fired for making some problematic statements on the record as it relates to trans individuals and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And so in comes Whoopi Goldberg as her new boss, who is like this very experienced woman. Basically, it seems like she's a legend in the field, the whole 9 yards. And Camille automatically thinks, oh, Black lady, I have an ally. And this Black lady quickly let her know that you, in fact, do not have an ally, and that you are going to and that you're going to have to doubly, triply prove yourself, and that she did not respect necessarily her caliber of work, her work product. The writing that she had done was not enough. And that basically she just was not qualified for, she's mediocre at best, not qualified, too social on social media, and not enough activism or not enough action. And so this got me thinking about times where I have had Black bosses that have challenged me. And even not even just Black bosses, but Black teachers that I've had that have challenged me. So I wanted to have a bigger conversation about that.
I mean, I don't disagree with you. I've experienced that as well. I can't say that I've had anything or anyone management wise who has challenged me. But those who I had, the one that I can think of who we affectionately call Big Bird, she wasn't necessarily she wasn't necessarily a challenge as much as she was just an awful manager. Like, she was just awful. Yeah, and a lot of people felt that she was awful. And even down to her own boss, who made mention to like just me trying to get through and make it through the environment that I was in, and not let her get to me, which I thought was strange. Because my thing is like, you are her boss. You are the boss. If you think that she is awful, why is this bitch still here?
Why is she still here? Yeah.
But as the universe would have it, soon after my hard going in that environment came about, maybe like a year or two later, things happened that left her unemployed. And have nothing to do
with to see it. So I thought of two instances, and they kind of sort of have the same spin. So this is way back in the day, but in middle school, I think it was like 7th grade. And I had this Black English teacher, and she was just horrific to me. Like, everything I did, she didn't like. She just nitpicked and nitpicked and nitpicked. And Anybody who knows me knows I don't do well with nitpicking. It's like, if you can tell me a legitimate reason why you don't like me doing X, then I'm happy to oblige you. But even as a kid, I did not do well with somebody just like picking me apart like that. We're not going to do that. And if you do, I am going to make your life a living hell. And I am going to make sure that you have something to nitpick about. So so I'm going to do what I want to do and get on your nerves just like you're getting on my nerves. That's my default, even from a kid. So my mom had to go to the school and talk to this lady, and she was like, "Oh, she thinks you're really gifted, and like you know, she thinks you're a really good writer and all of this stuff, but you know, she's gonna be harder on you because you're black." And I'm like, we don't do that.
Okay.
I don't get on board with that. I don't get on board with that. This whole like, you got to put me on the spot. You have to be embarrassing me. You have to be being a hard ass toward me in a different way because you want me to be excellent. I don't buy that.
Mm-hmm. That's what creates that damn narrative of the magical Negro. Because like we are out here bending over backwards into goddamn, you know, polyhexagons, which is not a thing, so that we can be magical. And like on the inside, it's like a fucking tornado, a hurricane, a whole storm. Because like you can't, like you don't know which end is up or which end is down. Like you don't know what the hell going on. You just spinning around and around within yourself to create this magic that the world wants us to see. And it's just kind of like that idea that comes from, you know, the I'll say maybe like the 40s and the 50s, where, and maybe even sooner than that, where Black Americans post-slavery felt that they had to be so magnificent that they would be accepted into white society and given the same, you know, like opportunities and accolades. That shit don't exist. It's never existed. So
there's a little bit of nuance there too, because back in those times, like, you know,
they did what they needed to do.
It was a means of survival in some cases.
And I understand that.
And like you can't say certain things. Yeah, you can't say certain things. Even if I've had conversations with my mom of telling her, and we had very honest conversations of like, you didn't let me be free. And she was very much like, yes, because I was raising a Black child and I wanted you to survive in this world, rather than let you be free or have time to take all of your emotions into account. I was raising a Black child who I knew was going to have to conform to, you know, get in line with society, so to speak, in order to survive. And some of that is true. Now, it's true then. It was certainly true prior to our time. And some of it remains true now, of like even the attention you get in school, the type of attention you get in school and in the classrooms, being how you're perceived, whether you're respectful or disrespectful, like gets you different places. And that, as unfortunate as that is, like we don't have the bandwidth for that. But like I had a boss when I was a law clerk, and she was a Black lady, and I didn't think I had any alliance with her, but like literally I had no problems with any of the other people in the office. Like basically they were all like, you're ready, like you write like a lawyer, you think like a lawyer, like you're ready. We helped write, me and the other girl helped write some of the briefs that they filed that were found in our favor and all of that stuff. And this lady was just, she wasn't necessarily always mean to me. She was persnickety, but she was also she was just kind of cold and kind of rude a little bit to me. And she did later tell me as I was leaving, like, yes, you are ready, but I always felt I had to be harder on you because you have a harder road to go. But I'm proud of you and I'm happy for what you've accomplished here, and X, Y, and Z, go on about your way. Fly, little bird, fly. And like I said, like this whole thing with Camille, it triggered me because it's she
is terrible sometimes, but
yeah, She is, like, being late for the meetings and all of the things, like, she deserves some of the kickback she was getting about that. But for her to just come in and just be like, no, you're not ready, you're not qualified, and just be like, it bothered me because also how many times are Black people passed over, and especially Black women, how many times are Black women passed over for mediocre white men? Like, where is the line, and where did we get to a point where we're like, you are not ready, but I am going to get you ready. I am going to mentor you, and I am going to make sure you get there. Like, when is the time for us to start like taking mediocre and maybe elevating mediocre versus like having to go out into the world and find this perfect specimen so that it's not a smirch on your name? And that's what it was like in the situation. Like, she went and found this, you know, I don't remember what country he's from, but he seemed, I think he was like West
He's
African, maybe like
African or something.
Nigerian.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or something. Um, and he had like this excellent resume and like all of this stuff, and hired him over, you know, this person who has a perspective and maybe doesn't have all the
Yeah.
experience. But
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? Because she wanted it to look good on her. And she was basically like, I can't have you bringing my reputation down when she talked to Camille. Like, I can't have you bringing my reputation down. We know we have to rise to a level. And I'm like, I don't necessarily buy that in the workforce. I'm sorry, I don't.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Like, the thing that maybe upset me a little bit was like, you're so unnecessarily hard on this girl because you don't agree with how she shows up in academia.
That's true too.
Um, she speaks to the audience that is the students you all are teaching, and she's good at it, good enough
Yeah.
for her classes to be constantly waitlisted and the classes to be packed to the brim because the students want to be in and under her tutelage.
Yeah.
So
And we kind
like,
of talked about that in our last episode of like how she was able to bring forth like the culture stuff, like the things from Twitter, like the conversations we're always having on Twitter about cutting season and all of this stuff. Like, she brings that forward and
in an
incorporates that
academic way.
into,
Yeah.
yeah, in her academic, you know, teachings and things like that. So yeah, I think you're right. Like, there's a culture divide also.
Yeah. And I
And a
would
lack of
also
respect.
say it's a lack of respect because the professor who was played by Whoopi Goldberg, department chair or department head, excuse me, she is just unaware of the way in which the world is moving in terms of like the way that Camille is reaching her students. I don't think that the department head would be able to do that. I think that
Yeah.
she would be another stuffy old professor with tradition, you know, writing the students and never really reaching them in a way that impacts them and makes a difference in their level of understanding and education. And I
Yeah.
think that it's a misstep. I look forward to the following seasons. I'm speaking into existence. I hope that they have another one and soon.
Me too.
Uh, because it was really good. It was really good to see the dynamics of Camille with her direct management, and then also seeing Ty's situation as her being the head and CEO of the company and having to
Mhm.
deal with those of us who are of the other persuasion wanting to buy into the company, but do so in a way that is diminishing the experience of blacks in tech and those who are like running the show, basically.
Yeah.
So
And the thing was, I didn't get the feeling like that she didn't. I don't get the feeling in the Whoopi Goldberg versus Camille situation. I didn't get the feeling that she didn't know or she didn't understand the whole thing. I just think she doesn't respect it. And I think
it's in
that's
here.
yeah,
Mhm.
she doesn't care and she doesn't find value in that. And I'm not
Mm-mm.
in a necessarily academic space, but I've heard that it's very elitist and bougie and, you know, all of those things. So like,
Mhm.
and there's value in doing the certain steps, you know, even from my perspective, you know, of having of being to law school, and you know, I didn't go the big law track or whatever, but like there are just certain steps in your career path or whatever that you're supposed to take. And if you aren't taking those steps, then you're just like, oh, okay, well, I don't respect you. Like, for instance, for people who work in law firms, if you're not on a partner track and you're just like, I don't want that ride, they're like, okay, we'll go over there and be unimportant, basically. You know what I'm saying? And that's sort of how it felt like she was treating her, like, because your interests or your methods don't align with mine, then they're not useful.
They're not important. Yeah. And that's shitty. And I think that my hope is that as we get into those positions and places, those who are in our age group, that we change that narrative, we change that experience. Even though I find myself with the youth looking at them like, what in the fuck? What happened? Who raised you? But I don't want to be so staunch in my positioning that I have no place to listen.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to create space that allows for there to be a reciprocal flow of education and understanding. Like, absolutely. I have the wisdom, you have the new eyes and experience on things. So, like, it should be reciprocal in some sort of way.
Yeah. And just, this is an aside, but not really. So I heard that Sherilyn Ifill is stepping down from the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. And, like, one of the reasons in an interview, one of the reasons she said that is because she felt it was time for, like, new leadership to come in with, like, some new ideas, and, like, she wants to be around and to be present and there to, like, help transition to, like, new leadership and a new generation. And I think, like, a lot of times people don't think that way of, like, hey, I'm transitioning something, and sometimes people drop the ball because they haven't done proper, like, succession planning and all of that stuff. It's like, you don't want to just, like, die in the role and then there's nobody behind you that you've trained to do the work. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that a lot of times things are dismissed where it could just be like, hey, I'm going to impart in you the wisdom and trust you to be able to move forward.
Right. Set you up for success so that when I'm done, you are the next person to run with the ball. Totally agree with that.
Yeah. And that you can impart your own ideas on it as well. So
yeah.
But anyways, I think that's
let us know. Like, if you all have watched the show, what your experiences have been as young Black people under Black leadership, if you've had any experiences with that. Also, talk to us about what you thought about the show. Was there anything that you took away from it? Did you see yourself in any of the cast members and or the storylines? And until next time.
We'll talk to you later. Like, comment, subscribe, follow us everywhere. All the information is down below in the description box.
All right, y'all. Bye.
Laters.